Sure. Great.
Sorry. Hi, George. Are you okay with recording?
Yeah, fine.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, it's developing, and I think a big project like this, just as the regenerative ecosystem is developing, and yeah, and I hope that the gathering will develop along with the regenerative ecosystem, but also, I'm learning, we're learning. So, and yeah, definitely for me, and I think for many people, this what is the action, what is the outcome, how does the gathering actually result in things happening is a key question. And yeah, I'm thinking of how to do this, take this, add
Ich
this
bin
as
lecker, so lecker war der nicht. Willst du mal probieren? Das war viel zu wenig Wein. Das war viel
add
zu
this,
wenig Wein.
somebody has
Someone's
how
on the line.
to get the app to enable this, to connect for action. But I think there's the part of creating a culture, right? We're starting to develop what is the culture of this gathering, what makes sense. So there will be that part, and then there is the practices, rituals, and things like this that we can see that will actually enable stuff to happen.
So, Victor and group, hi, I would like to ask if we could just briefly introduce, like, because I'm so new here, I really want to
Yes,
know who you are and what this is about, and have some
yes.
context before continuing.
Of course. So I think we are here, we are gathered. We're just kind of chatting at the start as we're waiting for everybody to gather, but this is probably us for this meeting. So to start with, the purpose of this call is to, well, celebrate the launch of the Gathering of the Tribes publicly, invite you to join and co-create the gathering and answer your questions, whatever questions you might have around what that means, and to start building the culture for the Gathering of Tribes, for meeting and connecting each other. So I think the first and really important thing is that we say hello, and we get to know, I mean, we know who is in the room. So I wanted to do a circle, and in the interest of flow, I would like to call people out. And the prompt is, what is your name? What tribes are you part of, or do you feel you associate with? And by tribe, it's whatever it means to you. It could be your company, your village, your community, or whatever other group you feel personal association with. And what are one or two things you're hoping to learn in this session this evening? So I'm Victor. I'm associated with Good Mountain Regenerative Village, which we're building, Gathering of Tribes, insofar as it's a tribe. Yeah, I think these are the main ones.
Oh, what
And
about rebuild? What about rebuild?
Rebuild, yes, actually, it's funny because it was in my mind, but Rebuild is in hibernation hiatus. So whilst I was part of it, I'm part of it, but Rebuild is not so alive anymore. So that's why I don't list it. And what I hope to learn
Okay.
today is, yeah, what your questions are. So Brad, your name, your tribes, and what do you hope to learn?
My name is Brad Nye, and I live currently in southern Mexico in a city called San Cristobal. I have been a big part of the Burning Man community. For 15 years, I've been to the event, and I formed a camp called Red Lightning that existed for 10 years. So I've gotten a lot of experience in events. I've produced over 1,000 events in my career, and currently I'm producing an event called Regen Week, which is a gathering of regenerative thought leaders and a collection of events going on in Tulum next March for 1 week. And before that, I've been producing a conference called Tribalize. That's how I met Victor. And Rebuild still is very much alive, in my opinion, even if it's not being actively stewarded. It did create a beautiful community of people across Europe and other places. So I've been very much involved in the regenerative space since 2017. And I'm very excited to sort of expand my network to be a part of this Gathering of the Tribes event. So thank you, Victor, for instigating.
Thank you, Brad. Tamara, your name, your tribe, and what do you want to learn today?
Oh, okay. So I'm part of the Arcan game world, and this game world is about initiations into radical responsibility. And that's one of the main things that I would bring here, or any tribe. But I'm also part of the actual tribal gathering in Panama, which is also the congregation of many different indigenous leaders and tribes. This is the proper term for tribes that I know about. And that is another one. I'm part of the lineage of the Nahuatl people in Nicaragua. And then perhaps other groups of interest are a huge music community. For the last 18 years, I'm a musician producer, and there's like a rhizome of many groups of people that I'm in contact with, and many others. And yet, actually, Brad, that's really cool that you live in San Cristobal, because I live in a community very near to there. Yes. And
wow.
Yeah. And I'm going there next week. So maybe we can see each other.
I'd love to have a coffee with you. I'd love that.
Sure. Yeah,
Connections already being made.
Yes.
Permit me to hand over to Gustavo.
Thank you.
You're muted.
Sorry, I was on mute. The name is Gustavo. I actually prefer to go by Gus. My tribes, I belong to quite many tribes. I belong to a very fundamentalist tribe within the crypto community, which is just people taking care about the most foundational issues of society, how we are all coordinating that badly. So I'm kind of a communist anarchist within the crypto space. I came also into regeneration from there, like went deep into the regen space. So also from the traditional Dream Factory tribe, also a couple of other tribes in Alentejo, regen communities and so on. And I think that's it. Also, spiritual tribes. I'm doing an interesting work there, but I don't know who's going next. What about you, Audrey? No, there was a third thing. Sorry, Audrey. Questions that I bring here today. I don't know. I just want to understand how I can be useful for the organization and execution for this event. I was last year in that event. I really loved it. For me, it was a really nice opportunity to get in contact with different amazing communities. So I just want to bring this exponential change due to these kind of events.
Thank you. My name is Audrey. My tribes are, I tend to say I'm not part of any tribe, but it's interesting to hear all of you say you're part of many tribes. So I guess that's more correct. At the moment, my tribe is Gathering of Tribes, which is a lot of tribes coming together. I like weaving and connecting. So, and I don't really like identifying that much. So it's a beautiful space to be in. And yeah, as Victor, always very curious to hear your questions, feedback from last year, to understand your expectations, and yeah, to see how you want and can engage in the process starting now, right, all the way to September 24. George?
Yeah, hi, I'm Georg. I live in Bonn. I was born in Austria, but I live now for a longer time in Germany than in Austria. I have a big family tribe in Austria. I just thought about I have more than 40 cousins and cousins. Me myself as well have a big tribe. We have 4 children, a wife since 22 years married. So this is also a big part of my life. I'm working for a large corporate, Deutsche Telekom, 200,000 employees since 23 years. And yeah, in the last 4 years, I started to build up communities within this large company. So we have about 100, 210 communities, the smaller and the bigger ones. Overall, I guess they have more than 30,000 members. And what I do is I'm looking at the patterns which emerge in these communities and how these communities can become really self-organized. So we have written a book about this one. We are going to publish tomorrow. I have a talk with the publisher. So they're helping us to bringing this on the road. And beside that, I'm organizing. Yeah, I'm visiting a lot of communities and tribes throughout the year. So this year, almost once a week, I visited a specific event, and I'm looking at the specific locations, at specific ceremonies, rituals, what people are doing, and I always try to see, okay, what is the underlying pattern? And obviously, there are some universal patterns which are life coherent, I'd say. And my questions toward gathering of tribes is, so there's one idea which emerges in me, like we are providing safe spaces. It's called Your Space. So it's a very simple build-up tent, and that might be interesting for a gathering of tribes. So the whole idea behind is that we are providing spaces for everybody who want to meet in a tribal manner. And I wanted to see how Gathering of Tribes maybe is a match for this one. So I don't know what you want to build up, how you want to meet, if you need tents, if you need infrastructure, whatever. And yeah, that I'm very curious. And I have also, let's say, many man tribes and other tribes, which I can connect to this one here. Yeah. I hope. So who's next? Thomas. Have you already?
Thomas, are you able to talk?
Not.
Maybe
Luke?
he's driving or something.
Yeah.
Ram.
You're on mute, Thomas, in case you haven't realized. But you're still there.
I can go next instead.
Please.
All right. Yeah, I'm Luke, and I'm here with Ale. Yeah, thanks for the invite, Victor. We only just recently kind of got connected. And I'm originally from Austria. Ale is from Mexico. The closest that I think I ever got to like finding my tribe was through the initiatives that actually Derek Bros has put together, which is the Greater Reset and the Freedom Cell Network. And especially in the last couple of years, well, I was pushed to leave my home country because of what was going on there. I was declared an illegal human, so I left. And it really showed me like where the line in the sand is for me and what my values are and what I want to bring into the future. And with these initiatives, especially, I was very surprised to find people that seem to have come like to a similar understanding and level of consciousness, and like it's an easy way to bridge and to start building once the consciousness is there. And yeah, so nothing concrete in terms of having like a fixed group so far. Although, and I will also announce that there is also another friend here on this meeting that I also invited, Ram, who I also met through through the initiatives that I mentioned. And he's also in Portugal, and probably also excited to share what they're doing. And yeah, I just want to see the whole network that is coming together, especially here in Europe, since I've been in Mexico for the last couple of years. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And Ram, feel free to go next.
Okay, thank you, Lucas, and thank you for letting me know about this beautiful group. My name is Rami or Ram, and yeah, since many years, the intentional community been one of my research and one of my excitement, because I see this is the way out of the old traditional system. So since 2017, we started an intentional community in Berlin, Germany, and then just a moment. Sorry, my friend is starting the vacuum. So yeah, and it's been a journey since then. We've been living in intentional community. We visited over 20 or 30 community, and we interviewed some of the founder, and we have some of the interview on our YouTube channel, which reaching people who are like-minded people. They want to kind of like exit the system or build parallel society where we connect to each other, and we create like a network where we grow our food, for example, and depending on local economy, so we help each other, we create an exchange. And we visited Portugal. This is our second time here. We came first time to South Portugal, where it was a little bit dry for us, so we came again with the intention of building and buying a land, and yeah, bringing our friends here. So it's been almost a year since we came here, and it's been growing. We met many communities here doing amazing work. We're connected to many local people, and we grow our food, and we have many people visiting us. We do retreats here and events. And when Lucas told me about the initiative and what Victor is doing and co-organizing, I feel like, wow, we should be in that. So yeah, thank you, Lucas, for the invitation, and I'm happy to be in this call. And if you have any question, just let me know, and I'll be happy to share and answer your questions.
Brilliant, thank you. So we are a small group, so I hope we can mostly chat, but I thought it would still be useful to start with 5-10 minutes introducing the event, if that's okay with everybody. So our purpose statement is to catalyze the emergence of a regenerative ecosystem of collaboration. And the way we envision this is the gathering of tribes is an event that's transformative for tribes. So what I mean about that, I know you mentioned, Tamara, there is lots of traditional tribes, but I think the desire to belong to something meaningful is I would say, a basic human right and a basic human need. In many ways, this has been hijacked in the consumer capitalist, whatever you want to call it, the dominant society now. It's been hijacked by nation states, hijacked by companies, hijacked by brands, even football teams. Like, what do you get to choose? You get to choose which football team you follow, and even not that always, because if you live in a particular city, maybe you have to follow a particular football team. But I think for the regenerative era, it's time for us to really think, because this sense of belonging and being part of something is a very powerful force. It's a powerful force for our personal identity. It's a powerful force for where our values are and where we put our energy. And I think it's time that we recover this. And it's, I was born in one country. I left when I was 9 years old, and I'm part of that country, but I'm also part of the many other countries which I lived along the way, right? And I think all of us have had a a journey which has taken us to many places where just defining us by the hospital in which our mother happened to be when we were born is not useful, or just defining us by, for those that are able to identify with their company and it's a long-term life journey, that's beautiful, but for more and more people that's not true. So I think there can be something really beautiful and powerful by consciously thinking through of where is it that we belong and how can this be an important force in our life. At the same time, I see, the regenerative ecosystem is nascent. It's full of small communities, organizations, companies that are growing, but it's still early days. So my inquiry is, how do we create a summit, an event, a festival, which supports and strengthens these tribes, which can be a company, a community, a village, to become stronger by coming together in a physical space. It's just a fact of the matter that all of us, even if your company is all in one office and you go to the office, a lot of your partners, collaborators, customers will be in other places. So we're all working remotely in one way or another. Coming together in a physical space is really powerful. So internally coming together, the tribe becomes strengthened by representing, showing activities, sharing your learnings, consciously sharing what services you offer to the ecosystem. So I really dream of this regenerative melding of a festival of celebration and a professional conference. Already the fact of the matter is that if you go to professional conferences, all the interesting, important stuff happens at the side events. In the era of YouTube, traveling across the city, across the world, to sit somewhere and listen to somebody talk just doesn't make sense. It's all about the conversations. So my question is, how do we design, and the Gathering of Tribes is our shared answer to the question of how do we design a festival which makes sense in the 21st century, in the era of YouTube, digital, remote work, in the era of regeneration, in the era where, a key part of regeneration is rebuilding our relationship to nature. And if this is one of our goals, we need nature as a full participant in our regenerative festival. Of course, it's great if all you can do is meet in a building in a city, but it's so much more powerful and energizing to actually sit together under a tree. Also, the other thing, what I really love about any kind of festival and gathering is the serendipitous connections. You meet somebody and you start having a conversation and you chat, and it's so much easier to do this in nature where there's always a tree to sit under. You can go for a walk. There's just so much open space for this kind of free association. So the concept, and like Brad, I've been a bunch of times to Burning Man, and I was lucky enough the first time to go in '99 when I was still 27, so still young and impressionable enough that it really changed my view and understanding of how it's possible to create an event, an amazing event, and doing so not through top-down programming and coming up and designing the experience, but by creating a culture of co-creation, this idea of no spectators, that everybody brings and contributes. And if you haven't been to Burning Man, you might have seen the pictures, and it's like all of this amazing artwork and all of this. But when you actually go there, that stuff is nice. But what strikes you, at least for me, and I'm interested with Brad, it's the little things. It's the person that dressed in a tutu and is going out and giving tea to people at 3 a.m. in the middle of the thing, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's the small things which everybody can do and which everybody does, that really, at least for me, make it an amazing event.
You're making me feel to wear my tutu now.
Yes. So yeah, I really love this idea of co-creation. I think it really matches with the regenerative ethos, which for me is very much about creating an ecosystem where there is much more horizontal, bottom-up collaboration, not top-down. And a festival is an amazing place to practice a culture. 5 days is not long, but it's still long enough to be a significant experiment in creating culture. So what better way to build this society that we hope for, of more collaborative bottom-up collaboration, by creating a festival through collaborative bottom-up collaboration. So that's the idea and the concept. And really, we have the celebration, the play. At the same time, we do hope, or the intention is, to create a culture where the goal of the festival is to connect for action, so that there is an outcome, and we come, we play, we learn, we share, but we're also looking at how can we support each other, whether it's finding members for your tribe, for your organization, for your community, finding partners, finding work. Unlike Burning Man is really beautiful, but there's many Burning Mans and many copies of Burning Man. We don't need more of that. I really want Gathering of Tribes to be a place where people find work. Well, I don't like the word work, but find support for their livelihood, whether it's selling their services or products or otherwise. So there is this professional or work aspect to it as well. Somebody asked at one point if vending would be allowed or welcome. The Gathering of Tribes is an experiment. If you want to come sell stuff, please go ahead. It's great. I think in a lot of ways, my goal is to create as open a space as possible and invite great people. And then it's for all of us together to figure out what is it a regenerative festival like this should be. There will be, at the same time, we do need some governance. So we're working on creating a council of the gathering, which will set the rules. And I guess as the last thing of my little introduction before going to questions is, we really want to, the regenerative ecosystem is growing really beautifully and it's exploding. And we really want to invite people from the whole spectrum of regenerative themes. One thing, working on building a regenerative village, one of my epiphanies over the past 12, 24 months is that if you're doing any kind of a regenerative project, you need to first and foremost be in the regenerative organization yourself. And when I say this, it sounds obvious, but there is so much of a culture of, when you're creating a company, it's this startup hustle burnout culture. That's the default approach, but that doesn't work when you're in the regenerative space. So no matter what you're doing, we share this question of what is a regenerative team, a regenerative organization, what is regenerative leadership, besides the fact that every regenerative area connects with some nearby ones. Villages connect with agriculture, tourism connect with villages, everybody connects with media and communications. There is so many links. So having this shared core ethos, value, principle, question, because for me, actually, regeneration is a question. I don't think anybody has an answer, a full answer of what regeneration is, which is what's beautiful. Having a festival, an event which gathers people from all of these areas I think will be really rich and really amazing. And yeah, and what I really love about this idea of creating a festival through co-creation ethos is I have no idea what will happen. And already last year, there were all kinds of things and events and activities that happened, which I would have never imagined, even though I'm a fairly creative, visionary person. I would have never come up with the idea of creating an art event for burying people or many of the other things that happened. And as we grow, there will be more and more. And that's what's beautiful. And everybody is free to come and bring what you think makes sense to share, what you would like to experiment with, because it's also a playground for experimenting. Questions, thoughts?
I have a question. Since you're doing it the second time, I wonder what are the takeaways from the first time? Like, what is your resume from the first time, and what would you do? Like, what lessons did you learn so far?
Yeah, so I'll tell this little anecdote because I really like it. The one around governance. So one of my favorite happenings from last year was something that was actually quite unpleasant. So as always, there was one camp which was playing music too loudly. We agreed until 11 and then we stretched it until 1. At 2, 3, there was still very loud techno. So on the WhatsApp chat, people were very upset. And then at one point, somebody came up to me, somewhat angry, but upset, let's say, not angry. And they went to me, "You're the organizer. Are you not going to do something about this?" And I had one of those moments of pure lucidity that you get sometimes in life. And this like massive internal thing, you are not going to put me into this position. And immediately I looked at him right in the eye and I went, "They're your neighbors. You go talk to them." Because it's like one of those times when I came up with the perfect comeback in my life. So it really started me, and it was an amazing point because actually that person didn't. Then sometime later, another person went out and yelled, and you have a large male yelling at full volume. You'd be amazing how far that carries. It was like, you could hear a kilometer away. And then the music stopped. And then the next day, the conversations were amazing. They broke out all around. People were talking really seriously and really deeply and really generatively. And it wasn't this kumbaya, we're all wonderful, you're beautiful, but like shit happened. How do we deal with shit? So huge number of realizations. One is sometimes people being uncomfortable is okay. And I mean, like, look, let's be fair. Okay, some people lost a bit of sleep. It's not a big deal. I can tell you if somebody was making a fire, which would be illegal, I would be immediately stopped there, right? There is legal things and there is inconveniencing things. But the big learning there was that we do need some kind of governance. There's absolutely no way in hell, I'm an anarchist by whatever, by birth. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be the rule maker, the judge, or the police. And that's why we're working on this idea of the council, because somebody needs to make the rules and somebody needs to police them, but it ain't going to be me. So that was an interesting learning. I don't know, Audrey, what are the learnings from last year?
Yeah, I can jump in as well. I mean, and just to close on what you were saying, I think it's Tamara, it brings me to what you were saying earlier about radical responsibility, right? I don't think it's about like pushing that responsibility onto one another until there is no one anymore at the end of the line, but it's just kind of taking it on, which is cultural building. Yeah, another thing, look, that I would bring up that was quite interesting from the people who attended the event was the importance of belonging to a space and to a group of people, which means that then the whole point of the event is that you get out of that group also, right? You cross-pollinate, you go, you learn, you put yourself in a different space because that's how you're going to learn. But last year, you could be part of a camp, but you didn't have to, right? You could just buy a ticket as an individual and show up. And I would say, I mean, it was nice and it was the first event, but it did create a bit of a, I don't know, more of a confusing aspect to the event, right? Like, is this for projects and initiatives? Is this for individuals? Is this for both? And so the change that we're bringing now, which is everyone is part of a camp and comes through a tribe, and some camps will have open tickets and you can apply for them and so on, but there is this culture aspect. Also is part of our strategy or intention now to really design, as Victor was saying, this event for organizations, right? For regenerative organizations, to give them the momentum that they might need to kind of pour energy into the organizations directly. So there was that was quite, I think, an interesting feedback. Yeah.
And the other one, it's practical, small, and we'll see the whole schedule thing, right? Because all of the activities are created by camps and all of this. And I try to do like, as because we're in nature, we don't want to use our phones, and we try to create this central thing with paper. It was a hell, it was a nightmare, it didn't work. And I was like, screw this, we're going to try to build an app that supports this. And my dream is that the app enables lots of serendipitous things. Like, I want an app that says, I'm here, I'm sitting under this tree, I'll be here for the next half hour. Whoever wants to talk about regenerative leadership, I'm open to have a chat. To really enable like spontaneous connections, spontaneous free events, as well as the schedule of activities that camps put on. We'll see, how do we design an app that actually enables real life connection. But yeah, that was definitely inspiration to try that.
I'll just say one first thing very quickly, and then I want to let you go for questions. But something else was, if you've organized events before, if you've been in events, you might know that there's always the first day or the first few days where everyone arrives with their energy, right? And there isn't always that much alignment or harmony between everyone. And usually on day 3, third day is always the thing. There is something that happens and this alignment comes alive, right? And then what we want to bring in this year, which is very different from last year, is what we call the pre-gathering, which means that the gathering is starting right now, basically in December 2023, and that's why we're having those meetings now, and that's why we're designing a full schedule of meetings as well for the next 6 months, basically, which will be on different themes and going more or less in depth about very different topics, from building a camp to what is alive in the regenerative communication space today. But the idea is that by being together, not really together, but kind of in this Zoom room, we're already laying the foundations of the culture that we want to bring in the gathering and to the wider regenerative ecosystem, right? That's it for me. Questions, comments?
A whole bunch of questions from Gorg in the thing. Thank you. So for me, it's not about the definition of regeneration. It's about engaging with the question. So I am looking to connect or inviting people who associate with being regenerative and are open to having a conversation about it. So actually, I'm much more interested in the dialogue of what for me, and just in general for people who want to have dialogue about what is regeneration than about people that have a fixed definition. But it's all of the areas. Who will be the beneficiaries? The beneficiaries is the tribes that come and participate, right? Just as appearing in a professional conference, I've really noticed this, and it's interesting with Burning Man. Brad said, he ran and was part of that camp for 10 years. There's a very strong bonding of building a camp together in a festival like this. And I want to apply that bonding, building strength to real world tribes. So I do believe that if you bring your community, it will come out stronger out of it. If you bring your company and represent, you'll come out stronger to it. The difference with rainbow gatherings is that it's connection for action. It's very much about, doing, so building livelihoods, building projects, and focusing on, focusing on what comes out of it, right? So our success, I see our success as being measured as what the outcome is that happens afterwards. The projects that are created, the businesses, the people that join different tribes, and so on and so forth. In terms of number of people, we're targeting 1,000 people this year. Last year, we were 250. In order to create a economically sustainable project, it needs to grow bigger. Target group, professionals, beginners. I think it's about, I think we're all regenerative beginners. I don't think anybody knows what this is. Certainly 100 years from now, I think we'll still be figuring it out. So for me, again, it's about the people that really want to engage and be part of the ecosystem. In terms of infrastructure, we, as the organization, we're providing land, which means the place and the permits, running water, toilets, no wood because there's no fires. In Portugal at this time of the year, it's illegal to make fires. Electricity to some... Yeah, I mean, this is fire territory. It's like California or other places like this. How can it be regenerative having people traveling all over the world to Portugal? This is the big question. How can anything be regenerative and we can travel? We're not answering. I mean, there is some people that are interested in that. I don't have a good answer to it. Requirements to take part is you want to come play. I really, it's very dangerous pulling in the reference of Burning Man, because people look at Burning Man as it looks now, which is a 30-year-old, 35-year-old event, which has 70 or 80,000 people and a huge culture behind it. I am more interested in pulling in the reference of Burning Man 1993, 1995, or even 1999 when I was there, the early days. So there is no expectation for building a camp other than you say you're there. It can be you and your friends, 5 tents in a circle, right? We're just starting this and we're booting up. So it's the intention to come play, and that's about it. What would we give back to the world? This is the connection for action, right? And I have some ideas for the app. I can see at the simple level, it's people that join tribes and connect with tribes, projects that emerge. Of course, there is also an initiative to plant trees and make an impact on the actual land that we're on. But it's the human connection and it's the connection for action that will be the impact. Does that answer your questions?
Thank you.
Victor, can I say a few words?
Please, please.
So I have obviously years of thinking about this type of culture. Not only have I experienced cultures, but I've created cultures like this. So I'm excited to share some of the things I've learned, not all of which I can do right now. But for me, we need to look at the history of tribal gatherings. And tomorrow you go to this event in South America that is probably as authentic a tribal gathering as there is. And I really feel like we need to go back to the real roots of tribal gatherings to understand what are the building blocks of a great event and a great gathering. and for me, it starts with ceremonial opening and to grounding everything around. I'm very disappointed to hear there's no fire allowed, because fire is really the galvanizing, sitting around a fire circle is probably one of the most, unifying things that I've ever done. And so I don't know if there's a way to do safe fires. Of course there are, but I would say that would be a very disappointing aspect to this if there's no fire allowed. But for me, ceremony and grounding things in the sacred is one of the ways to build the container so that it has the initiatory aspects of a tribal gathering. If people just come and they're on their cell phones and they're sending selfies to their friends, somehow something's getting lost in the translation. Another very core aspect of what the Burning Man community, the Burning Man organization, and not to use it too much as a reference, but it has a 6-person founding board. And those 6 people decided on the direction of the organization over the years. And it was a consensus board. So they all had to agree before some decision got made. And years ago, Burning Man decided not to get involved in any political direction. They decided not to build a social network, a technology. I was around when they were offered. A billionaire brought them a social network to help drive the connected field, and they chose not to. And for me, going to Burning Man has been an incredible learning environment of what to do and what not to do in terms of building communities. It's been a great learning and training ground for people to understand what goes into building a tribe and a community, and it's taken on many of the aspects of society that are kind of loathing to many of us, where entitlement and money begin to drive the installations that happen at Burning Man. So I've lost a little bit of my respect for the organization over the years, because people just go there and it's hedonism and it's narcissism and it's look at me, wow, 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 look at us. And so I'm looking for something that's got more authenticity to it. And I'm also looking for something where there's a purpose behind the gathering, rather than just a showing up and saying we're there. And for me, that was the biggest loss of Burning Man, is that there is no pointing of the collective intention of the gathering where people can contribute to it. And I would like to see that come out of the organizational structure of this. If there's some purpose that we're all striving towards, that would make it a lot more meaningful for me to show up and bring a lot of resources to this equation. So I could say more, but I'll leave it at that for now. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So I didn't mention, but yes, we're organizing an opening and closing ceremony. Also, I haven't figured out the details, but what I really love from the Burning Man experience is the greeters and the experience of where you enter and you are told welcome home. I would really love to have that at the gathering, which is really, really beautiful. Opening and closing ceremony, which creates the container for sure. In Burning Man's defense, I think every festival comes out of the ethos of its own times. And Burning Man comes out of the ethos of early 90s. And I was young, nice and lucky enough to be young and partying in those days. And only now do we appreciate how great it was. And it was the end of history and it was time to party. And yeah, maybe it's not possible to ask a festival to change its DNA because the world has changed. But that's why I think we should learn from that. And like you say, that's why I think this idea of the purpose being creative, creating a regenerative, collaborative ecosystem makes sense. The fire thing, maybe we'll figure out. I don't know. I think it is possible if you have the firemen standing by with a fire truck to have a fire. We'll have to see if we can afford that at this time. But I hear you on that. And then in terms of looking at the history, I have read some, and it's really interesting. If you look at Stonehenge, a lot of the megalithic sites, they were gathering sites for tribes. So this is
big gatherings.
Big gatherings of tens, hundreds of thousands of people. So at least as old as language, and really amazing. And I do hope that we'll get to build Stonehenge, maybe in 10, maybe in 20 years, Stonehenge sites things, month-long gathering of tribes. That would be beautiful. But it also makes me, looking at that history, makes me really feel and understand that this kind of gathering is fundamental to the human species. So it really makes sense. And I think the regenerative ecosystem really needs it. And we have many more questions than we have answers, but I think if we do this well, it can be a really powerful force for energizing and bringing this regenerative society into reality faster. Gus?
Yeah, I just have two questions that I want to maybe leave open here today. The first one is regarding what are those principles that we are willing to not only to defend, but also to take as a main flag and make the whole event to turn around a very specific and defined culture that we want to share, let's say. And I'm calling this from my experience in Nowhere Festival. That is another burn that they do it here. And there is like a lot of insistence in the core organizers, in the consent angels around to repeat, and people to talk about what are these principles in which they want people to navigate, right, during the event. I'm not sure if there is something already. Maybe this is something that we should redo for next.
So the answer is multi-layered. First of all, I'm much more of an anarchist than that. I really want to have as little things which are baked in, like fucking 10 principles. Nobody can remember 10 of anything. My favorite party game is to ask people to list off the 10 commandments. I only found one person who was ever able to do it, and they were in seminary school when they were a kid. People can't remember 10 things. I wonder, and we haven't developed this, but my inquiry is, could we do it in such a way that for each gathering, the council defines the principles? It's a work in progress. For now, and definitely for this year, connecting for action. That's the kind of focalizing energy. But yeah, I don't know. Let's develop it. I just know.
I follow you completely there, Victor. But still, there are already some guidelines that you are sharing here today, like regeneration, all those 8 different aspects of regeneration, connection, action itself. Like, what are those elements, components that will enable people just to keep the vibe, right? Because there is a vibe.
Yeah. So I think. I mean, again, for me, it's at least a 10-year project. And I really see a difference between a culture and rules, right?
I don't like rules.
I'm a big believer in trying to create culture. I'm really not into rules because rules need to be enforced. Rules become stiff and rules become irrelevant over time. Whilst
call it prompts, call it principles, call it, I don't know, guidelines.
So, I really love questions, right? It's like, for me, for example, regeneration is not an answer, it's a question. I'm a real believer. I love questions. Can we phrase some of these things as questions? But, it's a co-created work in development. Help us figure this out.
No, the thing that I like about principles is that it facilitates culture creation. Just that. And my next question is, what are next steps?
I have to get to my next meeting, and this is very exciting. I hope to reconnect again. So if there's another meeting, yes, I'll be there to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so
So,
much.
Tamara, I'm
And I
also
left my
similar to
contact
I've got
right
it.
there.
Yeah, if
Bye.
anyone needs to go, we're over time, so feel free to
Yeah.
out now.
Sorry.
Yeah, I want to say goodbye also. It was a beautiful opportunity to meet you, Victor. I heard about you from Lucas, and see Brad. I met you in Mexico, if you remember. And yeah,
Nice to see you.
I will leave also our Telegram channel where you can see more information about our project and what we are doing here in Portugal. And I look forward to collaborate with you and see what we can create together. So yeah, thank you, Lucas. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna post a link for our channel and hopefully see you in the next call. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Ciao.
you,
So what I could drop as final point is, so I'm working together with the 110 communities, 250 community hosts, 30,000 members in a fully self-organized way. And we have found a way how we take decisions, how we distribute our budget, and I think that's really distinct in the industry and maybe also interesting for tribes like this. So if you want to get to know it, how it works, it's very simple, and for me, it's a coherent pattern of life. It's so that's it. So no rules, no just agreements. Yeah. There's a big difference between rules and agreements. No roles, just a status, and the status can change. And it's a fluid or architecture, like a distributive structure coming from self-organization. It can emerge and disappear. It can emerge like the seasons we have in regeneration. So it's all incorporated. So happy to share if you're interested.
I would love to
Beautiful.
have a follow-up call with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to invite some of your communities to come play at the gathering.
Nice.
Me too. So I'm trying to figure out where's the connection point. Yeah.
I'll drop you a message.
Yeah.
Gus, I think you were asking what's next, right? Has that been answered? You want more details? You want more
I
details?
think Gus. I shared in our chat. He was saying he can connect us to the Web3 universe and invite key tribes there. So I think we should have a call. We'd love to, bring you.
Yeah, and I mean, my question from before is coming from there, because I know the vibes. I've been here, I've been there, I know how people relate to each other, and I know the difference there. So there is a deep, especially if we want to go from 250 Victor to 1,000, there is a strong process of culturization that we really need to take care of.
Sorry, a process of
Culturization, bringing them into the regeneration, understanding about consent, understanding about inclusion, understanding about many things else, right? And I'm an anarchist as well, Victor. Please don't get me wrong. Please don't think that I'm demanding for rules. I want rules because that's the last thing that I will like to bring here.
No.
But if we are willing to scale this up, if we are willing to bring and welcome this space to people that, because in the crypto space, there is a lot of regeneration intention, a lot of startups, a lot of really free guys developing protocols and applications for regenerating the earth, but they haven't had put their hands in the dirt any single time in their life, right? And I love this because this is an opportunity, a celebration opportunity to get together in content and so on, but we need to take care about how we are actually welcoming
Yeah.
There. And for me, these principles don't call it principles, call it agreements, call it however you want, maybe the council, maybe just make it fractal, not a central point of principles, but maybe principles of camps, and we previously agree on that, but there should be some guideline in terms of setting up these expectations for behavior and integration.
Look, by the way, if anybody needs to drop out, we are over time. Actually, Brad and I are going to have a call here soon, but look.
Yeah, just real quick. So, yeah, thanks for sharing the vision and all of that. It's beautiful. I love it. I resonate a lot with it. Now, in concrete terms, because you mentioned, I think 50 tribes and like 1,000 people. So that would be like you expect 20 people from each tribe, more or less, to show up and to do the networking within themselves. And do I understand that correctly? And then how much space is there? Is there like plots or something like that? Like how would you describe it in concrete terms or numbers?
So I imagine 20 at average, right? There'll be camps with 100 people and there'll be camps with 10 people. It's a grand experiment and we're evolving. So there'll be very different types of camps. The important thing is as Audrey said, is that everybody has a place they belong. And that also for exactly what Gus was talking about, how do we spread the culture? A key part of spreading the culture is ensuring that everybody is part of some camp, which means everybody is part of some human group, and we can spread the culture to the camps, right? Which is even 50 camps is much more manageable than 1,000 people. So, and we're really focusing our process. We're creating a kind of incubator, peer incubator for camps to support the camps to be the way of spreading the culture. And in terms of space, we're still working to find the land. We're still on the search, but the idea is, yes, we need a land where each camp can have its own circle, space, and gather. I don't know if that answered your question adequately.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, two more things. Is there a deadline to apply, and is there a price for for the tribes? Do they buy themselves in, or how does that work?
So, I mean, right now we are onboarding tribes and camps. I mean, at some point, probably the tickets will sell out, but that will be spring. So the sooner you, if you are thinking of joining, the sooner you join, the better, because it gives you more time to prepare and get organized, and it's more relaxed rather than rushing. The way it will work is that everybody buys their ticket through a camp. So there's a baseline fee for the festival as a whole, and then the camp will add whatever camp fees it has on top of that, right? We have some partners. If you want to do a luxury camp and have glamping and, I don't know, a catered chef, meals for everybody, you can have that. And then, your camp ticket will be hundreds, if not thousands. Or you can just have a minimal camp fee or no camp fee, and then it's the festival thing. But that's how we're organizing it. So you buy a ticket to a camp, not to the festival. Also, it's going to be a massive pain in the ass for us, but it will make it much easier for people to set up a camp and do a camp fee and all of this. So it's a pain in the ass for us, but I think to enable people to make camps, to make it easier, we're taking on this admin hassle.
And do you have a location already?
Audrey,
This is becoming the $1,000,000 question. No, not yet. We're speaking to a few projects, land stewards at the moment, but we don't have a signed contract. Yeah. We're looking for the perfect space, which requires a lot of water, quite some space, some shades, quite a few things. So,
but it will be in Portugal.
yeah, for this edition, it will be Portugal. Yeah. But 2026, Mexico, sure. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Maybe Guatemala. Mexico is like so. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the big long-term vision, my dream is that after I finish my 10-year stewardship of the Gathering of the Tribes, there will be some sort of an exit to community, long-term something. I do have a dream fantasy of making this a festival that lasts 1,000 years. One of my big life influences has been the 15 years I spent in Japan, which, by the way, if you're ever interested in Japanese stuff, unlike Europe, their emphasis is not on the build culture. A country of earthquake, tsunamis, and fires, they don't focus on the build culture, it's the festivals. And there are festivals that have been running 400, 600, 800, 1,000 years. And it's amazing because you go and you participate and you're like, wow, I'm part of a living culture that's 1,000 years old. And that's really created a shift in my mind that culture, community can last very, very long. And actually here in Europe, you see that in Iberia, in some places in Spain, in Portugal, you have like festival of Saint such and such, and everybody dresses as the green man, wears these masks and all of this. And you're like, screw me, this is way older than Christianity. This is a living culture that's thousands of years old.
Looking forward.
I just want to reference something, because most of the people on this call are very much aware of what's happening globally on this planet by the UN and the World Economic Forum and the top-down, one world government. And an event like this actually might not just be a luxury, it might be a necessity for many people. And so I think we should start thinking about that over the next 2 to 3 months. Interesting things are going to be happening on this planet, and they may actually shift the purpose of this gathering. I just want to acknowledge that. We don't even know what's going to happen in the next 6 months on this planet. There could be an entire, shift of top-down control. And an event like this actually may have a new purpose that emerges. So I just want to acknowledge that. It may not just be a for fun thing.
We're getting, it's not just a fun thing, we're getting philosophical, but I think the idea of connecting for action actually will not change. What that action that's most relevant and most appropriate, of course, that will shift, but connecting for action, I think for me is fundamental enough. And yes, you hinted at it, and we should probably let people go because it's starting to get philosophical, but I don't know if we should be recording this. This is all part of my hidden agenda to fight against the nation state, because every bit of your identity and sense of belonging and energy that you put intentionally into something that's not a country is energy that's taken away from the mainstream dominant system. So actually there is I do believe that there is a profound thing for inviting us all to think of, where do you belong? Who is your tribe? What does it mean to be part of a tribe? Where am I contributing? And every bit of energy that we put into our bottom up and new organization structures, tribes, is energy that's taken away from those big systems which have outlived their usefulness.
Well said. Well said.
That was beautiful.
Maybe that's Maybe that's a
Victor.
good closing point.
I need to go now because if not, I
Thank
will
you. Thank you,
engage
everybody.
talking about this. Bye bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody. See
Yeah,
you
thank you
again.
so